The stars stretched endlessly before the human vessel as it traveled through the void. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Promise, watching the massive station grow larger on the view screen. This was it, humanity's first real chance to join the greater galactic community. After 300 years of space travel, after colonizing 40 planets, after finally cracking the secret of faster-than-light travel, humans were ready to meet their neighbors. Minho felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He was not just a captain. He was Earth's chosen representative, carefully selected from thousands of candidates. His crew of 50 included the brightest minds humanity had to offer. Behind him, Jiwan worked at her station, preparing the scientific data they would present. She was young, only 32, but already famous for her work in xenobiology. Her research on alien life forms had prepared humanity for this moment. Near the weapon systems console, Haijin kept a watchful eye on everything. She trusted nothing about this mission. As head of security, it was her job to be paranoid. She had fought in the colony wars, had seen what happened when people let their guard down. The scars on her left arm were a constant reminder. She did not like that they were traveling so far from human space with only light. Defensive weapons. The Galactic Council had insisted on this. No heavy weapons near their capital. No military escorts. Just one small diplomatic ship with a crew that posed no threat. Minho had agreed to every condition. He wanted this to work. Humanity needed allies, needed trade partners, needed knowledge. The Council had been ruling the galaxy for over 10,000 years. They knew things humans could only dream about. The station was unlike anything humans had ever built. It was the size of a small moon, floating in orbit around a neutron star. Towers of crystal and metal spiraled upward from a central core. Lights of every color danced across its surface. Thousands of ships from hundreds of worlds docked at its many ports. This was the heart of galactic civilization, and humanity was being invited inside. The communications officer received docking instructions. Minho guided his ship toward the assigned berth with steady hands. He had docked vessels in meteor storms and through hostile fire. This should have been easy, but his heart pounded harder than it ever had in combat. This mattered more than any battle. They docked smoothly. The airlock connected with a soft hiss. Minho adjusted his formal uniform one last time. It was simple by design. Dark blue with silver trim, Earth's flag on one shoulder, and the United Colonies emblem on the other. Jiwan wore matching attire, her data tablets secured at her side. Haijin wore the same uniform, but with tactical boots instead of formal shoes. Minho had not argued with her about that. The airlock opened. The three humans stepped through onto the station. The corridor beyond was massive, built for species much larger than humans. The walls seemed to pulse with a gentle light. The air smelled strange, like copper and flowers mixed together. Other beings moved through the halls, creatures of every imaginable shape. Some walked, some floated, some slithered along the walls. None of them paid much attention to the humans. A guide waited for them. It was a tall, thin creature with gray skin and 4 arms. Its face had too many eyes. It spoke through a translation device that rendered its words in perfect English. The voice sounded mechanical and cold. "Welcome, humans. I am your assigned escort. Follow me to the council chambers. Do not deviate from the path. Do not touch anything. Do not speak to other species without permission." Haijin bristled at the tone, but Minho shot her a warning glance. They followed the guide through winding corridors and vast halls. Everywhere they looked, they saw wonders. Gardens that grew impossible plants. Windows that showed views of distant galaxies. Technology that seemed like magic. But they also saw the stairs. Other species watched them pass with expressions the humans could not read. Some looked curious. Others looked hostile. None looked friendly. They reached the council chambers after an hour of walking. The room was circular and enormous. Tiered seating rose up on all sides, filled with representatives from 73 different worlds. At the center stood a raised platform where the humans would make their presentation. Above everything, suspended in the air by some invisible force, floated Vorth, the supreme arbiter of the council. Vorth was made of living crystal. Its body shifted and changed shape constantly, reflecting light in patterns that hurt to look it directly. When it spoke, the words seemed to come from everywhere at once, bypassing the translation devices entirely and speaking directly into their minds. Humans of Earth, you have requested membership in this council. You claim your species is ready to join galactic civilization. Prove it. Minho stepped forward onto the platform. His throat was dry, but his voice came out strong and clear. He had practiced this speech 1,000 times. He spoke of Earth's history, of humanity's struggles and triumphs. He talked about the wars they had fought and the peace they had built. He explained their technological achievements and their scientific discoveries. He was honest about their flaws and their violence, but emphasized their growth and their desire to do better. Jiwan followed with a presentation on human biology and medicine. She showed data on treatments humans had developed, cures for diseases, techniques for healing that might benefit other species. She offered this knowledge freely, a gift to demonstrate humanity's goodwill. Several council members seemed interested in this, leaning forward in their seats and conversing with one another in languages the translation devices could not handle. The presentation lasted 3 hours. When it ended, Minho felt drained but hopeful. They had done well. He could see it in some of the faces looking down at them. Not all the council members were hostile. Some seemed genuinely impressed. Vorth's crystalline form pulsed with light. Your presentation is noted. The council will deliberate. You will be summoned when we have reached a decision. Return to your vessel and wait. The humans were escorted back through the corridors. This time, Minho noticed more details. Security systems hidden in the walls. Weapon emplacements disguised as decorations. This beautiful station was also a fortress. Haijin noticed too. She made mental notes of everything they passed. Back on the Horizon's Promise, the crew gathered in the common room. They talked late into the night about what they had seen, what it might mean for humanity's future. Minho allowed himself to feel optimistic. The presentation had gone well. Some council members had seemed receptive. Maybe this would work. Maybe humanity really could find its place among the stars. He had no way of knowing that at that very moment. In a secret chamber deep within the station, the council's inner circle was voting on humanity's fate. And they were deciding that humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too much of a threat to the established order. They were deciding that humanity needed to be stopped before they grew any stronger. They were deciding to kill the human envoys and make it look like an accident. 3 days passed aboard the Horizon's Promise while the council deliberated. The crew tried to stay busy. Ji-Wan organized her research data. Haijin ran security drills. Minho reviewed diplomatic protocols and prepared for various scenarios. None of them imagined the scenario that was actually coming. On the morning of the 4th day, a message arrived. Vorth requested a private audience with Captain Minho. The message called it a courtesy, a chance to discuss the terms of Earth's provisional membership before the formal announcement. Minho's heart leaped. This was good news. They would not discuss terms if the answer was no. Haijin did not share his optimism. She stood in his quarters, arms crossed, jaw tight. I don't like this. Private audience? Why can't we all attend? Why just you? Minho was already putting on his formal uniform. It's standard protocol. The council likes to discuss sensitive matters with leaders directly. It's probably about trade agreements or military restrictions. Things they want to negotiate before making anything public. Then take me with you? As security. You know they won't allow that. The message was clear. Minho alone. Chi-Wan entered the quarters carrying a small device. At least wear this. It's a medical monitor. I can track your vital signs from the ship. Heart rate, blood pressure, everything. If something goes wrong, we'll know immediately. Minho took the device and attached it to his uniform under his collar where it would not be visible. You two worry too much. The council isn't going to harm a diplomatic envoy. That would violate every law they claim to uphold. Haijin wanted to argue more, but she could see it was pointless. Minho had made up his mind. She walked with him to the airlock. Before he left, she grabbed his arm. If anything feels wrong, anything at all, you get out of there. Don't be diplomatic. Don't be polite. Just run. Minho nodded and stepped through the airlock. The same escort from before waited to guide him. They walked through the station in silence. Minho noticed they were taking a different route this time. The corridors were emptier. They passed fewer other species. The guide moved quickly, not giving Minho time to look around. They reached a section of the station Minho had not seen before. The architecture here was older, darker. The walls were smooth black stone instead of crystal and metal. No windows showed the stars outside. The lighting was dim. Minho's instincts screamed at him, but he pushed the feeling down. He was here. He had to see this through. The guide stopped at a large circular door. It opened silently. Beyond was a chamber, smaller than the main council room, but still impressive. Vorth floated at the center. Around the edges stood 12 other beings, all members of the council's inner circle. Minho recognized them from his research. These were the real power behind the council. Captain Minho, please enter. Minho stepped inside. The door closed behind him with a sound like finality. He suddenly realized the guide had not followed him in. He was alone, aboard the Horizon's Promise. Chi-Wan watched her monitors. Minho's heart rate was elevated, but that was normal given the situation. All other readings looked fine. She had a bad feeling anyway. Haijin stood next to her, arms still crossed. How long has he been gone? 43 minutes. The walk should have taken 20. I knew this was wrong. In the chamber, Minho tried to focus on Vorth's words. The Supreme Arbiter was explaining something about humanity's application, about concerns some council members had raised. But Minho was not really listening. He was watching the other beings in the room. They had formed a circle around him. They were not moving closer, but they had positioned themselves between him and the door. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Minho asked. His hand moved unconsciously to his collar, near where the medical monitor was hidden. I said, Captain, that the Council has grave concerns about humanity's aggressive nature. Your species has spent its entire history at war. Even now, in your so-called time of peace, you maintain massive military forces. You build weapons of terrible power. You speak of peace while preparing for war. We maintain defenses like any responsible species. We've learned from our history. We seek peace, but we're not naive about the universe. Exactly our concern. Another council member spoke. This one looked like a mass of tentacles with too many teeth. You are not naive. You are dangerous. You advance too quickly. You adapt too well. You are a threat. The word threat hung in the air like poison. Minho finally understood. This was not a negotiation. This was a trial, and the verdict had already been decided. If you're denying our application, I understand. We'll return to Earth and continue on our own. Perhaps in the future. There will be no future, Vorth interrupted. The Council has voted. Humanity cannot be allowed to continue unchecked. You will not return to Earth, Captain. No one will. The medical monitor on Minho's collar activated its emergency beacon. The signal burst through every communication channel, screaming for help. Aboard the Horizon's Promise, alarms blared across every station. Jiwan's screen showed Minho's heart rate spiking. He's in danger. He's activating the emergency beacon. Haijin was already running. Get us ready to launch. Full power to engines. Open all communication channels. But it was too late. The Council had planned this carefully. Their ships were already in position around the Horizon's Promise. Energy dampeners activated, blocking all human communications except the medical beacon. They wanted Earth to know what happened. They wanted to send a message dot in the chamber. Minho saw weapons emerge from the walls. He was a soldier before he was a diplomat. His body reacted on instinct. He dove sideways as the first plasma bolt scorched the air where he had been standing. His hand found the small pistol hidden in his boot, the one Haijin had insisted he carry despite regulations. He came up firing. The weapon was primitive compared to what the Council had, but it worked. His first shot took one of the tentacled creatures in what he hoped was a vital area. It screamed and collapsed. Minho rolled, fired twice more. But there were too many of them, and they were ready now. Return fire lit up the chamber. A bolt caught him in the shoulder. Pain exploded through his body. He kept moving, kept shooting. Another bolt hit his leg. He fell hard, but his training kept him going. He managed 2 more shots before the fatal blast hit him square in the chest. Minho fell onto his back. The ceiling above him sparkled with strange light. His chest burned. He could not feel his legs. Through the pain, he managed to activate the vocal transmission on his medical monitor. His last words were transmitted directly to the ship, directly to Earth, directly into the permanent record of human history. They killed me. Make them pay. Then Captain Minho, Earth's first envoy to the stars, died alone on an alien station, murdered by the very beings he had come to meet in peace. The medical monitor continued transmitting his flatlined vital signs for exactly 7 more seconds before the Council destroyed it. But those 7 seconds were enough. The data had already bounced through multiple relay stations. The recording of his death was already spreading through human space. Haijin heard his last words. She stood frozen on the bridge, tears streaming down her face. Then rage replaced grief. Battle stations. Charge weapons. We're getting our captain back. But Jiwan grabbed her arm. Look at the scanner. They have 50 ships surrounding us. We have light defensive weapons. We can't fight our way out. Then we'll die trying. The chief engineer's voice came over the intercom. Commander, I'm detecting massive power surges in all surrounding vessels. They're preparing to fire on us. Haijin looked at her crew. 50 terrified faces looked back at her. These were scientists and diplomats, not soldiers. Minho had been the warrior among them. And he was gone. She made the hardest decision of her life. All hands abandoned ship. Get to the escape pods now. Scatter in all directions. Some of us have to survive to tell Earth what happened here. The crew scrambled for the pods. Haijin stayed on the bridge with Jiwan and 3 others who refused to leave. They launched every pod, programmed each with different trajectories. Then they waited. The Council ships opened fire. The Horizon's Promise lasted 47 seconds before its reactor breached. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. Of the 50 crew members, 4 escape pods managed to jump to FTL before being destroyed. 17 humans survived to tell the tale. The Council released their official statement within an hour. A terrible accident. A reactor malfunction. So tragic. They would, of course, investigate thoroughly. But Mingho's last words and his vital sign recordings were already racing back to Earth at faster-than-light speeds, carried by automated relay beacons that the Council did not even know existed. In 3 weeks, Earth would know the truth, and everything would change. The data package arrived at Earth's outer defense stations on a Tuesday morning. It contained everything. Minho's neural recordings showing the chamber, the weapons emerging from walls, his desperate fight for survival, his vital signs spiking and then flatlining. His last words, crystal clear despite the pain in his voice. The scanner data showing 50 Council ships surrounding the Horizon's promise. The energy signatures as they opened fire. Everything dot within an hour. Every government on Earth had the files. Within 6 hours, it was on every news network. Within 12 hours, riots had broken out in 17 major cities. Not riots of chaos, but riots of rage. People demanding action, demanding justice, demanding war. Admiral Deho sat in the combined fleet headquarters, watching the reports flood in. He was 73 years old, had served in the military for 52 of those years. He had fought in the colony wars, had seen the worst that humans could do to each other. He had helped negotiate the peace that finally united all of Earth's governments under one banner. He thought he knew what war looked like. He was about to learn he had seen nothing yet. The Emergency Council convened that evening. Representatives from every nation, every colony, every human settlement gathered in the Great Hall in Geneva. The room could hold 5,000 people. Tonight it held 6,000, packed wall to wall. The overflow watched on screens outside. Millions more watched from around the world. The Secretary General stood at the podium. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but her voice carried across the hall without amplification. We have all seen the evidence. Captain Mino and his crew were murdered. This was not an accident. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a deliberate act of war against a peaceful diplomatic mission. The hall erupted in shouts. Some called for immediate retaliation. Others urged caution. The Secretary General let them argue for 20 minutes before calling for order. We will vote. But first, let the military leadership present their assessment. Admiral Deho walked to the podium. Behind him, holographic displays showed star charts and tactical data. He spoke without emotion, just cold facts. The Council controls approximately 73 star systems with military presence in 200 more. Their combined fleet consists of roughly 50,000 vessels of varying classes. They have technology we don't fully understand, including energy weapons that surpass our own in defensive shields we have only recently begun to develop. Murmurs of concern rippled through the hall. Deho continued. However, the Council is not united. They are a coalition of different species with different goals and different capabilities. Many of their member worlds have minimal military forces relying on the Council's protection. Their tactical doctrine is based on 10,000 years of fighting, small-scale conflicts against disorganized pirates and rebellious colonies. They have not fought a peer-level opponent in recorded history. A representative from the Mars colonies stood. Admiral, are you saying we can win? Deho was quiet for a moment. I'm saying we can make them bleed. I'm saying we can hurt them badly enough that they will regret what they did. Whether we can win, that depends on how we define victory. Another voice from the crowd. What is? Our current military strength? Captain Soman stepped forward. She was younger than Deho, barely 40, but she commanded humanity's most advanced weapons division. We have 3,000 frontline warships, another 5,000 support vessels. We can mobilize another 10,000 within 6 months. If we convert civilian ships, can activate all reserve forces. That's nothing compared to their numbers, someone shouted. Summon's smile was cold. Numbers aren't everything. The Council fights with honor and tradition. They broadcast their intentions. They follow rules of engagement that are thousands of years old. We don't have those limitations. We've spent 300 years fighting each other. We know every dirty trick, every ambush, every way to hurt an enemy that thinks they're superior. Intelligence Director Yuna spoke next. She was the quietest of the three military leaders, but everyone leaned forward to hear her. For the past 10 years, we've had deep space reconnaissance drones mapping Council territory. They don't know about these drones. They don't know we've been preparing for this possibility since we first detected alien signals. We have detailed maps of their infrastructure, their supply lines, their communication networks. We know where they're strong and where they're vulnerable. The Secretary General raised her hand for silence. And what of the cost? How many humans will die if we go to war? Gaiho met her eyes steadily. Millions. Maybe billions if they retaliate against our colonies. This won't be a quick war. It won't be clean. But if we don't respond, if we let them murder our people without consequences, then we're telling every species in the galaxy that humans can be killed without penalty. We become prey. The debate lasted for hours. Some argued for diplomacy, for taking the evidence to other alien species and building a coalition. But Yuna shut that down quickly. I've been monitoring Council communications since the attack. They're already spreading their false narrative. Other species are accepting it. Some are even applauding it. Humanity was too aggressive, too dangerous. The Council did what was necessary. We have no allies out there. We're alone. Finally, at 3 a.m, the vote was called. The question was simple. Does Earth authorize military action against the Galactic Council? Of the 6,000 representatives present, 5,943 voted yes. 47 voted no. 10 abstained. The Secretary General's voice was tired but firm. The will of humanity is clear. Admiral Deho, you have full authorization to prosecute this war as you see fit. May history judge us for what we're about to do. The mobilization began immediately. Every shipyard in human space received new orders. Factories retooled to produce weapons. Scientists were pulled from civilian projects to work on military applications. The colony on Titan, which had the largest industrial capacity in the solar system, went to war footing within 48 hours. Captain Soman unveiled Project Reckoning. It was a program so secret that even most military officers had not known it existed. For 20 years, humanity's brightest minds had been developing weapons for a war that everyone hoped would never come. Now those weapons would be used. She showed the leadership what they had created. Relativistic kill vehicles that could travel at 90% light speed. Fusion warheads that could crack planets. Nanite swarms that could consume entire fleets. Antimatter torpedoes. Quantum disruptors. Virus weapons designed to attack alien computer systems. And more, so much more. One representative looked sick. These weapons. They could destroy entire civilizations. Soman nodded. That's the point. The Council thought we were weak. They thought we were just another primitive species they could step on. We're going to teach them the most important lesson humanity has ever learned. What lesson is that? Never start a war with someone who's better at it than you are. The recruitment centers were overwhelmed. Volunteers flooded in faster than they could be processed. Young people who had never considered military service signed up by the millions. Old veterans who thought they were done fighting came back. The rage that had swept Earth after Minho's death crystallized into cold determination. Yuna's intelligence network went into overdrive. Her agents, both human and drone, penetrated deeper into Council space. They identified key targets. Fleet positions, command centers, supply depots, communication hubs. Everything was cataloged and prioritized. Within 3 months, the transformation was complete. Earth and all its colonies had become a war machine. The economy shifted entirely to military production. Civilian luxuries disappeared as resources were redirected. Food was rationed. Energy was conserved. Every human alive understood what was at stake. Admiral Deo stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Retribution. Around him in space, 3,000 warships assembled in perfect formation. Behind them, drone carriers held tens of thousands of autonomous fighters. Supply ships carried enough ammunition and fuel for years of combat. Medical ships were ready for casualties. This was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Soman joined him at the window. "It's beautiful, in a terrible way." Deo nodded. "I wish it wasn't necessary. But they made their choice when they killed Minho. Do you think we can really do this? Take on an empire that's ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years? I think they made a fatal mistake. They killed our diplomat, our peacemaker. They left the soldiers alive. Now they're going to learn what humanity does best." "What's that?" "War." The final transmission was sent to all colonies, all outposts, all human ships everywhere. It was short and simple. "This is Admiral Deo of the Terran Combined Fleet. We sail for the Council. We sail for justice. We sail for Captain Minho and all who died with him. The galaxy will learn that humanity cannot be murdered without consequence. We offered peace. They chose war. Now they will have war." The Retribution Armada jumped to hyperspace. 3,000 ships vanished in a flash of light. Their destination was the Vorten Nexus, a major council trade hub and military staging area. It would be the first target. But not the last. Far away on Earth, Haijin watched the broadcast from her hospital bed. She had survived the escape from the Horizon's Promise, but her injuries were severe. She would never serve in combat again. But she smiled as she watched the fleet depart. "Make them pay, Minho," she whispered. "We're making them pay." The Vorten Nexus was a beautiful system. 3 inhabited planets orbited a blue star, connected by massive space stations that served as trade hubs for dozens of species. Millions of beings lived and worked here, never imagining that war would come to their peaceful corner of space. The Council had protected them for centuries. They felt safe. They were wrong. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system without warning. No declarations, no demands, no chance to surrender. Admiral Deo had been clear with his commanders. The Council wanted to play by rules of honor and tradition. Humanity would teach them what real war looked like. The Council defense fleet at Vorten numbered 200 ships. They were caught completely off guard. Their sensors detected the human vessels, and alarms blared across every station. The Council commander tried to hail the approaching fleet, tried to negotiate, tried to buy time. Deo ignored every transmission. "All ships," he spoke calmly into the command channel. "Begin Operation First Blood. No mercy. No survivors." The human fleet split into 3 groups. Captain Soman led the vanguard in the Vengeance Unbound. Her ship was equipped with experimental jump drives that allowed short-range teleportation. She vanished from sensors and reappeared behind the Council battle line. Her weapons fired before they even knew she was there. The Council ships used energy shields. They were proud of this technology, had refined it over thousands of years. They thought themselves invincible behind those shields. But humanity had studied the data from every Council ship they had ever encountered. They knew the shields had one weakness. They could not stop solid matter traveling at relativistic speeds. Soman fired her railguns. Tungsten rods the size of telephone poles accelerated to 90% of light speed. When they hit the Council shields, physics did what physics does. The kinetic energy had to go somewhere. The shields held for exactly 3 microseconds before catastrophic failure. The rods punched through hulls like paper. Ships simply came apart. The Council fleet tried to form a defensive formation, but the humans were already among them. Fighter drones swarmed out of the carriers, thousands of them, moving in patterns that seemed random, but were actually controlled by advanced AI. The Council ships tried to target them, but there were too many. For every drone destroyed, 3 more took its place. The main human fleet opened fire with everything. Missile swarms that moved in ways missiles should not be able to move. Laser arrays that burned through armor in seconds. Nuclear-tipped torpedoes that turned space bright as suns. And the nanites. Captain Soman released the first wave of nanite swarms. The microscopic machines spread through space like a silver mist. They found the Council ships and began to consume. Hull. Plates dissolved. Weapon systems failed. Life support shut down. The nanites were programmed to eat everything except human-made materials. They were also programmed to replicate, using the matter they consumed to build more of themselves. A Council cruiser tried to escape. It managed to get its engines online and turned to run. Soman jumped her ship directly in front of it. She fired her main weapon, an experimental antimatter cannon that the scientists had warned might destroy her own ship. The beam hit the cruiser dead center. For a moment, matter and antimatter met. The explosion could be seen from the inhabited planets below. The battle lasted 14 minutes. When it was over, 200 Council ships were destroyed. The human fleet had lost 7 vessels and taken damage to 30 more. It was the most lopsided victory in modern warfare. But Deho was not satisfied. Target the stations. Military installations only. Avoid civilian casualties where possible. His officers hesitated. One spoke up. Sir, if we destroy the stations, thousands of civilians will die anyway. Life support failures, decompression, chaos. Daiho's face was hard. The Council chose to make this a war of extermination when they killed our diplomats. We're not here to play nice. We're here to show them what happens when you murder humans. Target the military stations. Fire. The bombardment began. Fusion warheads struck the military shipyards. Relativistic kill vehicles smashed into weapons platforms. Within an hour, every military installation in the Vorten Nexus was either destroyed or crippled. The civilian stations were spared, but the message was clear. Humanity could have killed everyone. They chose not to. This time, .news of the attack spread across Council space at the speed of light. Panic followed close behind. Species that had relied on the Council for protection suddenly realized that protection was not guaranteed. The Council scrambled to respond, pulling fleets from across their territory. But they were always too late. The human fleet struck at the Crimson Reach system next. Then the Binary Stars colony. Then the Crystal Fields. Each attack was swift and brutal. Each time, the humans came in without warning, destroyed everything military, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Yuna's intelligence network provided perfect targeting data. Daiho's commanders executed their missions with cold efficiency. Captain Soman became famous among both humans and aliens. Her tactics were unorthodox and devastating. She would jump into the middle of enemy formations. She would pretend to retreat and then ambush pursuers. She used asteroids as cover and moons as shields. She fought like a pirate, not an admiral, and it worked. The Council tried to adapt. They developed new shield frequencies to stop the railgun rounds. Humanity switched to plasma weapons. They created countermeasures for the nanites. Humanity released version 2, which was faster and hungrier. They tried to predict human movements. But Yuna's cyber warfare teams had infiltrated their communication networks. She fed them false information while stealing their real plans. At the Battle of Three Suns, the Council made their first serious stand. They assembled 5,000 ships, the largest fleet they had gathered in centuries. They set a trap, broadcasting false information about a lightly defended supply depot. They thought the humans would rush in. They thought they would finally achieve a decisive victory. Admiral Deho saw through it immediately. But he went anyway. Not into the trap, around it. While the Council fleet waited in one system, the human fleet struck at their supply lines in 3 adjacent systems. By the time the Council realized what had happened, they were cut off from fuel and ammunition. Their massive fleet was stranded. Deho gave them one chance to surrender. The Council admiral refused. So Deho implemented protocol. Scorched sky. The nanite swarms released this time were different. Bigger, faster, more aggressive. They did not just consume ships. They consumed everything. Asteroids, space dust, even the trace gases between planets. The Council fleet found itself in the middle of a growing cloud of hungry machines that ate everything they touched. Ships tried to flee, but the nanites were everywhere. The cloud expanded, consuming fuel from engines, stripping hulls, even eating the organic matter of the crews. The Council fleet dissolved. 5,000 ships reduced to clouds of atoms. The battle lasted 7 hours. Not a single human ship fired a shot. They just watched from a safe distance as their machines did the work. The galaxy reacted with horror. Some species immediately withdrew from the Council. Others tried to negotiate with humanity, offering information in exchange for protection. A few tried to stay neutral. The Council's authority crumbled as member worlds realized they could not provide security. But not all species surrendered. The Korvath, a warrior race that had served as the Council's military backbone, declared blood feud against humanity. They gathered their clans and launched a counterattack against human colonies. They hit the mining colony on Titan III. 2,000 civilian miners died in the first bombardment. The Korvath warriors followed ancient traditions, broadcasting their intentions before attacking, giving defenders time to prepare. Fighting with honor. Captain Somin responded to the attack personally. She did not broadcast intentions. She did not fight with honor. She brought 50 ships and showed the Korvath what dishonor looked like. Her fleet jumped in during their victory celebration. They fired on the Korvath ships while they were powered down. They used the civilian mining equipment as bombs, detonating reactor cores and fuel reserves. They hunted down every Korvath vessel in the system and destroyed them all. Then, Somin did something that would make her infamous across the galaxy. She tracked the Korvath fleet back to their home system. She jumped in, found their homeworld, and fired a single shot. One antimatter torpedo into their most sacred temple, the center of their warrior culture. The building and everything within 10 kilometers vanished in a flash of light. She broadcast a message on all frequencies. You killed 2,000 miners. I killed your temple. Attack our civilians again, and I will kill your world. We don't care about your honor. We don't care about your traditions. We care about winning. The Korvath submitted within a week. Their warriors, taught for generations that honor was everything, could not comprehend an enemy that had none. They had no tactics for dealing with an opponent who would destroy their most sacred sites without hesitation. Other species learned from the Korvath's mistake. They did not attack human civilians. They did not try to fight honorably. Some tried to fight dirty, using tactics they thought would shock humanity. Biological weapons, suicide attacks, terrorism, but humans had invented all of those tactics and perfected them through centuries of warfare against each other. Nothing the aliens tried was new. 6 months after the war began, the human fleet had destroyed nearly 40% of the Council's military capacity. They had taken control of 18 star systems. They had forced 23 species to withdraw from the Council. The remaining Council members were in chaos, arguing among themselves about how to respond, some wanting to negotiate, while others demanded total war. Admiral Deo assembled his fleet for the final push. The Council's capital station waited, the place where Minho had died. It was time to finish what they had started. Somin stood on the bridge of the Vengeance Unbound, looking at the star charts. They'll defend that station with everything they have left. It'll be the bloodiest battle of the war. Deo nodded. I know, but we need to do this. We need to show them that no place is safe, that murdering our people has consequences. We're going to tear down their temple, just like they tore down our hopes for peace. The fleet jumped to hyperspace one final time. Ahead of them waited the Council's last stand. Behind them, they left a galaxy that would never forget what happened when you attacked humanity. The Council's capital station hung in space, exactly where it had been for 10,000 years. It orbited the neutron star like it owned the universe. Defensive platforms surrounded it in layers. Thousands of automated weapons. Shield generators powered by the star itself. This was the most defended location in known space. The Council had never imagined they would need to defend it seriously. Now they scrambled to prepare for the impossible. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system. 3,000 warships plus support vessels. Admiral Deo stood on the bridge of the Retribution and looked at the station on his view screen. Somewhere in there, Minho had died. Somewhere in those gleaming towers, the Council had decided that humanity could be murdered without consequences. Open a channel. All frequencies. I want everyone in this system to hear me. The communication officer nodded. Channel open, sir. Daiho spoke calmly, without anger, which somehow made his words more terrifying. This is Admiral Dao of the Terran Combined Fleet. 6 months ago, you murdered Captain Minho and 49 other humans who came to you in peace. You killed them and lied about it. You thought we would accept it. You were wrong. He paused, letting his words sink in across countless species listening throughout the galaxy. We have spent the last 6 months teaching you what humanity does to those who harm us. We have destroyed your fleets. We have taken your systems. We have broken your power. Now we come for your capital. Now we come for justice. Vorth's voice responded, transmitted from deep within the station. The Supreme Arbiter's words carried the same mental weight they always had, but now there was fear beneath them. Admiral, this has gone far enough. Surely we can negotiate. Find common ground. Prevent further bloodshed. You had your chance to negotiate. You chose murder instead. You had your chance to find common ground. You chose to treat us as inferiors to be eliminated. Now you face the consequences. We were protecting the galaxy. Your species is too aggressive, too dangerous, too unpredictable. Daiho's laugh was cold. You were right about one thing. We are dangerous. You just didn't realize how dangerous until it was too late. Here are our terms. You will surrender completely. Every member of the Inner Circle who voted to kill our people will stand trial on Earth. The Council will be dissolved. Your military forces will be dismantled. And this station, this symbol of your so-called authority, will be destroyed. Impossible. This station is ancient. It is neutral ground for all species. To destroy it would be to destroy thousands of years of history. You destroyed our future when you killed our envoy. Now we destroy your past. Those are our terms. You have 1 hour to evacuate all civilians. After that, anyone still on that station is considered a combatant and will be treated as such. Daiho cut the transmission. Around him, his officers waited for orders. Captain Somin contacted him from the Vengeance Unbound. Their defense grid is powering up. I count 15,000 automated weapons platforms, plus their shield system. They're not going to surrender. I didn't expect them to. Begin the assault. Follow the plan exactly as we discussed. The human fleet moved forward in 3 waves. The first wave consisted entirely of drones, thousands of them, expendable and cheap. They rushed toward the station, drawing fire from the automated defenses. The platforms destroyed them by the hundreds. But there were too many. While the defenses were occupied, the second wave moved in. These were the missile ships, loaded with every kind of warhead humanity had developed. They fired from extreme range. Nuclear warheads to test the shields. Antimatter torpedoes to stress the power systems. Relativistic kill vehicles to physically batter the defenses. The station's shields held, but the strain was visible. Energy patterns flickered and wavered. The third wave was Captain Summons. She jumped her ship and 50 others directly behind the defensive line. They appeared inside the shield perimeter and opened fire on the weapons platforms from behind. The platforms tried to rotate, but they were designed to fire outward, not inward. Summons' fleet methodically destroyed them one by one. The station fought back. Ancient weapon systems activated, technology that had not been used in millennia. Directed energy beams that could cut a ship in half. Gravity wells that could crush a vessel. Exotic particle weapons that ignored shields entirely. 2 human ships were destroyed instantly. 5 more took critical damage, but humanity had studied this station for months. Yuna's intelligence had mapped every system, every power conduit, every weak point. The human fleet knew exactly where to strike. Target the shield generators, Deo ordered. Pattern Omega-7. 50 ships fired simultaneously at 5 different points on the station's surface. The combined firepower overloaded the local shield segments. They failed, creating gaps in the defensive coverage. More human ships poured through the gaps, firing on the generator buildings themselves. One generator exploded. Then another. The shield system was designed to be redundant, but the damage was too extensive. The entire shield network collapsed. Now, Dao said quietly, execute protocol final judgment. Captain Soman had been waiting for this order. The Vengeance Unbound carried a special weapon, one that the scientists had built specifically for this moment. An antimatter warhead containing enough explosive force to destroy a moon. She flew her ship straight at the station's power core. The massive reactor that drew energy from the neutron star itself. Soman, you need to launch that torpedo and get out of there, Dehao said over the communication channel. Can't, sir. The guidance system was damaged in the fight. I have to deliver it manually. That's a suicide run. I know, but Minho was my friend too. And someone needs to make sure this shot counts. She cut the communication before Dehao could order her to stand down. The Vengeance Unbound accelerated toward the station's core. Defense systems fired everything they had at her. Her ship took hit after hit. Armor plating burned away. Decks depressurized. But she kept flying. At the last moment, she activated her jump drive. The ship teleported the final 1,000 kilometers, appearing directly next to the power core. She armed the warhead manually, set the timer for 30 seconds, and jumped one more time. The Vengeance Unbound reappeared at the edge of the system. Engines dead, life support failing, but intact. Soman watched on her flickering view screen as the warhead detonated. The explosion was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. When antimatter and matter meet at the heart of a power source, drawing energy from a neutron star, physics does beautiful and terrible things. The station's core vanished first. Then the explosion propagated outward in a sphere of pure energy. The ancient towers, the diplomatic chambers, the living quarters, all of it was consumed. For exactly 4 seconds, a new star burned in that system. Then it collapsed leaving nothing but expanding debris and radiation. The Council's capital station, 10,000 years old, symbol of galactic authority and power, ceased to exist. The remaining Council ships scattered. Some tried to flee. Others surrendered. None fought. The will to resist died with their station. Admiral Deho broadcast to all Council forces, "This war is over. You are defeated. Any ship that surrenders now will be spared. Any ship that continues fighting will be destroyed. The choice is yours." Within 2 hours, every Council ship had powered down their weapons. The war was over. The trials began 3 months later on Earth. The surviving members of the Council's inner circle were brought to Geneva in chains. Vorth, the supreme arbiter, was first to face judgment. The trial was broadcast across the galaxy. Humanity wanted everyone to see this. Intelligence Director Una presented the evidence. Recordings of the secret vote. Communications showing the premeditated murder. Testimony from Council members who had opposed the decision but been overruled. The evidence was overwhelming. Vorth's defense was simple. "We did what we thought was necessary to protect the galaxy from a dangerous species." The human judge, a stern woman named Yunji, looked at the crystalline creature without sympathy. "You thought you were protecting the galaxy. Instead, you taught humanity exactly how dangerous they could be. You're guilty of murder, conspiracy, and crimes against sapient beings. You will spend the rest of your very long life in prison, contemplating the consequences of your actions." The other Council members received similar sentences. None would ever be free again. The galaxy had to be reorganized. The Council was dissolved as promised. In its place, humanity established the Terran Accord. Any species could join, but membership came with rules. No wars of aggression. No genocide. No killing of diplomatic envoys. Species that broke these rules would face human military intervention. Many species lined up to join. They had seen what humanity did to enemies. They wanted to be allies instead. Others stayed independent, but maintained friendly relations. A few tried to resist. They learned quickly that resistance was futile. Captain Soman survived her suicide. Run, but her body had taken damage from radiation exposure. She would never fly a combat mission again. Instead, she became the first commander of the Terran Defense Force. Her flagship was named Minho's Promise. Every ship in the fleet bore the names of those who died on the Horizon's Promise. Admiral Deho retired after the trials. He was 74 now and tired. But before he left military service, he made one final journey. He traveled to the coordinates where the Horizon's Promise had been destroyed. A monument was erected there, a simple obelisk of black stone floating in space. It bore the names of all 50 crew members. At the base, an inscription read, "They came in peace. We came in vengeance. Let the galaxy remember both." Daiho stood in his ship, looking at the monument through the viewscreen. He thought about Minho, about the cost of this war, about the million humans who had died fighting it, about whether it had been worth it. He decided it had. Not because of the victory, not because humanity now ruled the galaxy, but because the galaxy learned a lesson. You do not attack humans without consequences. You do not murder peaceful diplomats and expect to survive. Humanity can be kind, can be generous, can be peaceful, but push them too far, and they will show you why they are the most dangerous species in the universe. Haijin recovered from her injuries and became an advisor to the Terran Accord. She helped write the rules for this new galactic order. Every day she wore a pendant around her neck, a small piece of metal salvaged from the Horizon's Promise. It reminded her why all of this mattered. Ji-1, who had survived in one of the escape pods, became the first human ambassador to the new galactic community. She traveled to dozens of worlds, rebuilding relationships, showing that humanity could be diplomatic again. But she always traveled with a full military escort. The galaxy had learned one lesson. Humanity had learned another. Peace requires strength.